is CNN.
It has been 2 years since the attack on the consulate in Benghazi, which killed 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens. In that time, there have been 7 investigations into what went wrong, 1 independent review at the State Department as well. And with all of that in mind, no one in the administration has technically lost their job in the fallout, and Republicans continue to accuse the White House of withholding information. This has all led up to what is supposed to be the definitive probe into the attacks. A bipartisan House committee set to hold its first public hearing today. Joining us now with more on this is the top Democrat on the Benghazi Select Committee, Congressman Elijah Cummings of Maryland. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Kate. Good to be with you.
Thank you very much. I want to ask you, all along, you and I have talked about this a while back, you've been critical of the process. You had said it was important that you were on this committee, but you have been critical at the fact that this committee was even really put together. But I look back at our most recent polling, though, Congressman, on the Benghazi attacks. Americans still have a lot of questions about what happened in 2012. 61% of those that were polled back in June, they said that they didn't think the administration had been honest about Benghazi. With that in mind, do you think this committee will come up with be able to provide the definitive account of what happened in at the consulate?
Kate, I think we will, but I think we are, to a large degree, I think a lot of those questions have been answered. The public has heard about a lot of investigations. As a matter of fact, the 9 exhaustive investigations with regard to Benghazi, but a lot of the public don't know what these reports say. And so that's why we released our website yesterday, Benghazi on the Record, which provides answers to the 13 questions that have been most asked. And the public will have this tool. And basically what we've done, Kate, is we have, without very little rhetoric, we have basically asked those questions and then put in one place transcripts from interviews, the various reports, and live testimony that was done in interviews that answers the major questions that have been asked. And so, again, it's hard to say where we go from here, because we believe that a lot of the questions have already been answered, and many of them are coming out of bipartisan reports.
Well, I want to ask you kind of about that. I mean, you talk about this website you guys have, the Democrats on the committee have released about providing answers. That's clearly what the American public wants.
Yes.
Throughout this, I know that you have been skeptical of the motivations of Republicans. I mean, let's be quite honest. This has been a strong rallying point for Republicans. The attacks, misinformation, withholding information has been a strong rallying point for Republicans since the attacks happened. Do you think, in your view, do you think this is a dog and pony show?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a dog and pony show, because there's something that's so important that we will get out of this no matter what. And that is that we'll make sure that the security of our personnel is tightened all over the world. And we will reveal more about what has already been learned. I think if we accomplish those 2 things, we've done a lot. But we cannot step out of this committee and end our work without making sure that our people, diplomatic folks throughout the world, are more secure.
How have things been going behind closed doors, if you will? I mean, I've been reading a lot about a lot of folks saying, Republicans included, saying a lot of work that's going on in this committee is not happening in public hearings. A lot of it's going on behind the scenes. How do you think Trey Gowdy's been handling this committee so far?
I think Trey has treated us quite well. I am concerned that we still don't have a scope of work and that we still do not have a plan as to how we're going to proceed, and we still have not had an organizational meeting. And by the way, that's
one. Have you met? Did I go too far on that? Have you met? Do you think there is actual work going on behind the scenes?
Oh, no, there's definitely work going on behind the scenes. Of course, we had to staff up. We had to find space to have our offices, hire personnel, and do our research. And that's what this Benghazi on the Record we've spent a lot of time on that. But I think it's so far so good. But I think we've got to make sure that we maintain transparency and fairness. And so I say the jury's still out, but so far so good.
The fact that no one has really lost their job, fallen on the sword, that we don't have a name of someone who really was the one person that did not answer the call when needed to get additional security into Benghazi. The fact that that has not happened, that has been a major criticism of those who are skeptical and question that the administration has been forthright and forthcoming with information surrounding this. Does that concern you?
First of all, I believe in excellence, and I believe in effectiveness and efficiency in government. And I think most of the vast majority of our personnel in the State Department have done an outstanding job. As far as those who may have not operated properly, there have been some demotions, some transfers. And so, no, it does not bother me. I think as we listen to the various testimony from Admiral Mullen and Ambassador Pickering, who led the Accountability Review Board, they laid out reasons why they thought that the actions that had already been taken were appropriate.
Yeah, and remember the two words that stick with me from that independent review are systemic failure, and that's what they really concluded. If I can just very briefly, we'll follow this committee. This is the first of many committee hearings that we're going to follow on Benghazi. Just also a very important day in the House. I do want to get your take on the vote that is expected on arming and training Syrian rebels. That's this vote also being tacked on to a must-pass piece of legislation to keep the government funded. Where are you on this, and where are you on the fact that this is being tacked on to something that needs to pass?
Well, I wish that it had been a separate vote, and I think if we are going to go to war, or we're going to even do what that is making sure that we train the Syrian rebels, I think that should have been a separate vote. As far as how I will vote, I have not decided yet. I'm still mulling over it. There's information coming to us, seems to be, almost by the moment. And so I'm going to do what I believe is the right thing for the American people. And I know that a lot of people are concerned. This is a very complicated issue. I want to make sure that we're not into mission creep. And I want to know what it's going to cost and exactly how we plan to, if things go awry, how the president plans to deal with that. And so there are a lot of questions here, and it's not a simple yes or no answer. But by this evening, I'll have figured it out.
Is your biggest question the issue when you talk about mission creep, the fact that there could be combat boots on the ground, or that's more kind of in Iraq, or do you still have big questions on the reliability of the rebels in Syria?
Both. I'm concerned about boots on the ground, but I'm also concerned about the vetting process that we'll use with regard to the Syrian rebels. I don't want to see us put arms in the hands of folk that we've trained that then turn around and are against us. And so, again, we have to be I think this is one of the most important votes that we'll take, because we don't know exactly where it's going to lead. So we have to use our best judgment, and that's what I'm going to do, as I've always done in my 17 years in Congress. Absolutely. Congressman, it's always great to have you on. Thanks very much for your time this morning. Thank you. Of course. The desperate